Second race weekend of the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup at Winterberg in Germany. It's a snowy scene at the Hochsauerland, but it is cold and still, and hopefully the weather shouldn't play any part in this women's bobsleigh race this morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm Martin Haven. Alongside me is Elizabeth Meyer, the Canadian skeleton slider. Liz, you were on this track yesterday. How is Winterberg this crisp December weekend?
The ice is definitely very hard here. We have a little bit of blowing snow coming in from the fake snowblowers, but here we go into Winterberg and we're in corner 0. Winterberg is unique in that it has a 0, which is kind of odd. Some people call it a kink. And then you head into corner 1. At the top of the track in Winterberg, you're just trying to push your start as far as you can until it gets a little bit trickier. And here in corner 2 is a really big curve, not a lot of drop. Corner 3, nice small corners. You're trying to do as little as possible. Into corner 5, which is a little bit bigger, just kind of prepping into going into Kreisel. Here's 6, and now into Kreisel, which is 7. Kreisel in German means circle, and that's exactly what this curve is. 7 heading into 8, and then getting into 9, which is a bit tricky for bobsled because there's 9, and then there's this little blip right here is 10. Into big corner 11, which makes a bit of a tricky transition into 12, into 13, and then into the big uphill Zeal curve, which is corner 14.
Well, it's always renowned as a track that you bring young drivers to learn how to drive and how to get down. It is a fairly straightforward track to get down, not too many demanding transitions unlike Sigulda, but finding the speed here, that's a different matter indeed. Now, our World Cup points leader is Mariama Yamanka of Germany. She claimed her first ever World Cup win last week in Sigulda. Nadezhda Sergeyeva is behind her, and Anna Kohler of Germany was the bronze medalist last week. So, will the same names still be on the podium? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Lana Myers-Taylor there will be among our potential race winners here. Got a field of 12 female sleds. Air temperature -3 feels a lot more chilly than that, though. I mean, it's really raw. Humidity yesterday was 97% thanks to those snow blowers, so it's really raw and actually feels like being in England, frankly, rather than somewhere nice and crisp and dry. There's Annika Dratsek. Everybody doing their stretches. Lauren Gibbs there, stretches and warm-ups to try and make sure that they are ready to go at the start. And also, it's important because there's pressure when you're sitting in a bobsleigh as opposed to lying on a skeleton. The pressure is trying to like bend you in half, and if you're not fully flexed, things pop.
Yeah, definitely as a brakeman, you got to make sure your hamstrings are nice and tight because you're under a lot of pressure. Exactly
right. So here's our start list. Belgium's Anne van Nieuwenhuis is first off ahead of Sergeyeva, and the race winner from last year, Stephanie Schneider, she goes off third. Misha McNeil from Great Britain and Anna Kohler ahead of the Olympic champion Mariama Yamanka, who's 6th. Then the rookies, Lubov Chernik and Kati Bile in our field of a dozen sleds. First women's sled on the ice, race 2 of the BMW IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup is Belgium's Anne van Nieuwenhuis with Sarah Ertz behind her. And Anne finished 10th in last year's race. Her best result here, 9th place a couple of seasons before.
And now she's coached by Tom Delahunty, the British old bobsled pilot who works alongside with the Netherlands as well. So they've been here already earlier this year, as it's a really close track to Belgium, so they've been getting a couple runs in, kind of their home track, as it were.
Lots of Belgian fans here to support the Red Devils as well. Bobsledding is a very big thing in Belgium. They created the team back in 2007 with a reality TV show, and as a result, they have become quite well known. Well, Anna's giving us the first view of the track. Nice controlled slide.
Definitely. You can see the runners are nice and straight. You don't see them dancing, trying to get grip on the ice. Nice transition there. You're going to see a little bit of tapping sometimes at the entry of corners, just like we saw there, and she's controlled it very, very nicely.
Down into the big corner 14. That's a really steep uphill. That was added in a sort of late addition to the track. There's Tom Delahunty, looks pretty happy with that. 57.46 and speed down at the bottom. Didn't actually get the speed down at the bottom off the transponder in the sled. So Anne van Nieuwenhuis, 27 years old now. She's been coming here since she was a brakewoman for Elfie Willemsen. And 34-year-old former heptathlete Sarah Aerts is on the brakes today.
Here she is, just hopping into the sled. She's not known necessarily for her best starts, but she's an incredible pilot, and she really showed that here. Getting all nice tucked in, pilot bar down. Here she's coming out of exit 11, a little bit of extra height, but she takes the sled off very nicely to have a good transition into corner 12.
Yeah. Just see the steer there. She just gets a little late steer and a tap on the wall to straighten her up. And you'll see a lot of sleds taking that.
She's always smiling, thumbs up, happy to be here.
And she'll be calling tomorrow's four-man race in the booth with me as well, so looking forward to that. Nadezhda Sergeyeva of Russia with Yulia Belemesnik behind her. Last year, Nadezhda 17th here. That was some way her worst women's race of the season.
Well, I can guarantee she'll be top 12 today.
Yeah. Well, she's been fourth here. She was silver in the European Championships in 2017.
Tiny skid coming off of corner 0, but she handles it super well. No tip for back being straight.
Last year the weather was vile and snowy, wasn't it? So all sorts of weird results. 2700s up on Van Nieuwenhuis of Belgium.
You can see her just looking into the curve as she prepares going into the curve very nicely.
Well, they have a saying in motor racing that the car will follow the ice, and that's the same when you're sliding, right?
Definitely. The sleds will follow the way you're looking. So you can see the pilots kind of peeking into which way the curves are going and where they want the sled to go.
And the other thing is the modern bobsleds, you see, have got a peak in the middle of the cow. So actually you sort of, if you're sitting low enough, you have to look around it.
She's having a bit of a wild run at the bottom here, a couple taps and flopping off of the curves.
Carry the speed. You can see there the way the sled climbs to the finish. And although it looks like they're plunging downhill now, they are actually coming uphill all the way from the finish line. But 2100s in front with a 57.25. So a good first run. Things to tidy up down at the bottom.
Definitely, and I think their start advantage over Anne has really helped them in this track. It's a bit of a pusher's track until you get to corner 9, and then it gets a little bit tricky, which is where the rushing is a little bit looser.
Yeah. She was relatively happy with her training, so we'll wait and see. A couple more sleds will give us more of an idea of where the benchmark is, and maybe down here at the bottom, Russian just carrying a bit more speed than she was ready for.
Definitely, just a little bit of a tap there on the entry and kind of a flop and a small skid. Handles it all okay, just lets the sled fly.
You don't get a chance to practice on the track on race day, so the last time they slid was 2 days ago. The weather was very different then. Stephanie Schneider of Germany, last year's winner here in Winterberg. It was her first World Cup winner, one of 3 that she ratched up last season. And Kristen Strack behind her lives just about an hour away from the Winterberg track.
The Germans are incredible here. It is their home track. They know the secret lines. They know the perfect setup. They just know it. Yeah.
Well, they come here as juniors. They come here in European Cup action as well.
Nice push off of corner 2 to really accelerate the sled.
The gaps here traditionally are fairly tiny. We get a lot of ties in the field, so you see gaps in the hundredths rather than the tenths of a second, but she's 1800s up at the Kreisel.
Yeah, she had a small tap on the entry of Kreisel, but again, these girls have been down this track so many times that she's going to be able to adapt and accelerate.
Speed higher than Sergeyeva all the way down, but a big tap there and a skid. Looks so insignificant, but it clipped the back of the sled.
Yeah, she thought she was in the clear, but just a little bit.
Yeah, again, you see, I think today the ice is harder, much faster with the race spritz on it, maybe than the final day of training. And did you find that yesterday, that it was quicker than you were expecting?
Yeah, just the ice is a little bit different. It is quite a bit harder than we had all expected, and you can kind of see that with Schneider's run. She's a bit skiddy, and I don't think she expected that today.
Well, earlier in the week, it was kind of snowing a bit. It was plus or minus 1 or 2. Now it's definitely hard, cold. Well, it says -3. I reckon it's close to -6 or 7 at the moment.
Yeah, here she's coming off, and you're going to see this big skid just a little bit on the extra of that corner 10, that small blip. Pushes her just kind of a little bit funky, and then her back bunk hits and sends her into a massive skid. But like I said, these girls were able to fix it because of the track knowledge that they have here. A bit of a flop there, a little bit of head bouncing around, but handled it very, very well.
So Stephanie Schneider, last year's winner, 4th in the Winter Olympic Games. And that's a great first run from her. Stuff to work on as well. So she knows that there can be improvements. Next up is Great Britain's Misha McNeil, her first World Cup race of the season. She's been racing in North America, where she's had big successes. She won the Junior World Championships here in 2017, so she's got good form on the Winterberg track. Although last year in the snow, only 20th place. Montel Douglas behind her, a summer and winter Olympian. She raced in Beijing in 104x1. 32-year-old from Lewisham is Great Britain's 100-metre record holder still.
I'm very impressed by Mika, and she's been through so much last year, and she came out and had an incredible season. She's been learning and having to deal with a lot of difficult situations, and she's shown her strength that way.
Well, the girls are really pushing on. They had the best ever result for Great Britain's women's bobsleigh in 8th place in Pyeongchang. Last year in the snow, only 20th place. At the moment, it's a 3rd fastest run on the splits.
Yeah, we've got to see if she gets a little bit closer to the bottom, if she's able to push that speed down. Not the quickest start today, but...
Speed is good, 92.6 to Schneider's 92.9, so this is a quick run.
And a nice line out of corner 10 there.
So still in 3rd place on the splits.
Little bit of a tap there, entry 14 as you're about to go uphill. It really is detrimental to your speed.
Across the line she comes, 4700s back, 57.34. So first World Cup slide of the season, but they had a very successful time in North America. Raced in Salt Lake City and Lake Placid and won all 4 outings. Now that's a great confidence booster to start a brand new season, a brand new quad.
Definitely. It would be an awesome way for her to start, and it's just, yeah, able to give her that confidence that, no, when she goes into this first World Cup, that, yeah, I'm here to fight and I'm here to do well.
Yeah.
Bit of a tap as she enters Kreisel, which we've seen many girls do today, and she has a nice, smooth line. She's not waving too much. Little bit of a flop here on the exit, kind of a tap as she heads into 14, that really big uphill corner.
Decent run from Misha McNeil from Newcastle and Montel Douglas from Lewisham in London. Germany's Anna Kohler was 8th place in last year's race here, former skeleton athlete from Dortmund. 3rd last week in Sigulda. Let's see if she can replicate that podium form.
63 is a really great start. It's the 2nd fastest, or 3rd fastest that we've seen today.
Her brake woman is Leonie Feibig, 28-year-old from Cologne. She had 2 Europa Cup races in December. Last year, this is her 3rd ever bobsled race.
That's incredible.
Yes, I know. Talk about into the mincing machine.
Yeah. And on a home track, which is an amazing way to do that for sure.
So World Cup debut for the brake woman. Anna Kohler at the moment 2nd on the splits behind teammate Stephanie Schneider.
She's had a couple taps here and there, but again, she's a German. She's had plenty of runs here. Much straighter than her teammate as she heads into corner 11.
Last year, Kohler was new to the World Cup. I think we're going to see her really starting to expand her repertoire in this forthcoming season. 2nd place, 3300s back. Well, there's room for more in between 1st and 2nd.
Definitely, and she had a fantastic result last week in Sigulda. It's a very difficult track, and she's shown that she's here to compete, and it is meant to be on World Cup.
Well, after all the steering that you do in Sigulda, you have to really kind of recalibrate and calm down a lot here, don't you?
Definitely, especially at the top of the track here. You're trying to steer as little as possible, and you're just being as light as you can. Here she is in the exit 11. She's not getting that pickup like most of the other girls are doing. She's able to steer it off and a little bit less floppy than we've seen, a little bit more controlled.
All right, so 5 sleds down, and it is a German 1-2. Stephanie Schneider ahead of Anna Kohler. And now our Olympic champion, last year's bronze medalist on this track, Mariama Yamanka. Last week in Sigulda claimed her 1st ever World Cup win. 23-year-old Annie Dratsic behind her has been on this track with Yamanka in the last couple of years. And in 4 races here in World Cup, the brake woman has never been off the podium.
That's awesome. She's an incredible brake woman. I've seen her push for many years. She's so strong, she's so fast, and there we see it with the fastest push that we've had this morning. at the start, it's very much that the brakeman and the pilot need to work together so they hit the sled in perfect timing and that they can accelerate the sled as quickly as possible.
Lācis took silver here in 2015 in the World Championships with Anja Schneider-Heinze, and then won gold with Schneidi as well. Schneider-Heinze will be here today, saw her this morning at breakfast.
A little bit of tap entry Kreisel, but I think every single girl we've seen has been doing that.
The gaps between the German sliders are habitually tiny. 400ths of a second, Jamanka in the lead.
She looks to be having a much more controlled run than her partner.
But 2.5 Ks down at the bottom on Schneider's speed. Is she going to be in front of the line? She is, but by only 800ths of a second. So she found speed uphill, but her speed at the bottom, in the end, came up to 129.8, but she was just about in front all the way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think perhaps the setup might be a bit different than her teammates because she had a much nicer lines, but it was much more controlled than her teammate who had perhaps a fatter runner and a little bit less control.
Corner 0 there, the reason that exists is the old corner 1 was the first corner. Then they built a new start building, and to accommodate the luge start and everything, they had to put a little kink in the track. So that's where corner 0 comes from.
Which can be a little bit tricky.
Well, being German, they decided not to renumber the numbers that were already numbered, so they then had to subtract one. Mariama Jamanka of Germany leads a German 1-2-3. Next up is our rookie from Russia, Lyubov Chernik, the 23-year-old, making her second World Cup start, with Yulia Shoksheva behind her. And Chernik, with just 3 race starts here on the Winterberg track, going to have to draw on very limited experience to try and beat the Germans.
Yeah, but thankfully her other teammates have been here before, so she's able to learn a lot from them.
It's putting it into practice, isn't it? Little push away from 0 and has to straighten it up.
Yeah, you can see her runner tips just dancing a little bit left and right, and that's her trying to gain control again of the sled.
Uphill on the entry to corner 2, then you drop down, then you climb uphill again from 3 towards 4. The camera doesn't lie. Over the crest and dropping down into 5.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a downhill section, and then it flattens out again through Kreisel. Just goes a little bit uphill. Tiny tap there again, like we've been seeing.
Yeah, racing sleds downhill. Well, yeah, sometimes. Mostly.
Yeah, 50% maybe.
Okay, well, the lack of experience is definitely telling. 4700s behind the gap. It's going and very skiddy there from Chernik.
Oh, big flop there.
Well, she won't necessarily be her normal smiley self when she gets to the bottom. Climbs towards the finish line, and 7th place, 57.56, a 10th behind Anva Nieuwenhuis.
You saw her just peek over her shoulder when she crossed the finish line to let her brakeman know it's time to pull the brakes, time to stop the sled.
There's been a couple of times this week when sleds have been coming fast up the hill where you can hear the track workers yelling, brakes!
Yeah, you want your brakeman there to be pulling them for sure.
Yeah, yeah. This isn't Innsbruck. There is a bit of a runoff area, but you don't want to be shooting up the end there like the British did last year.
Definitely.
2 years ago.
Here she is, just coming off of 9 into that little blip that is corner 10, and this is where, very similar to the German athlete, has a bit of a skid and a tap, and that's going to take a lot of your acceleration away. Very loose on the bottom of the track, trying to gain that speed, but it's a fine balance of acceleration into flops.
Well, the smile's back. There's Lyubov Chernik. She's enjoying life at the moment. First season on the World Cup. Katrin Weil of Austria now, 25-year-old, 5th here last year. She's had 3 Europa Cup starts and did the Junior Worlds in 2016, and she's got Jennifer Onosanya back in the team, the former competitive dancer and javelin thrower, the 24-year-old brakewoman.
Yeah, and Jenny is ultimately, she's from Holland, but now she competes for Austria alongside Wikanti.
That's a thing, right?
Yeah, that is a thing. She had a little bit of a skid coming out of corner 0, just trying to get it back under control to be able to accelerate the sled again.
Yeah, we saw former Austrian brakewoman Sandra Decker here yesterday, recovering from foot surgery, so I'm sure she'll be itching to get back in the sled, but not just yet.
Take a little bit of time off. She's having a bit of a loose run here, a bit skiddy, a bit tappy.
5.66 start. 1200s faster than the Brits, and at the moment they are in the battle with Misha McNeil.
That was a very nice 9-10. She sets up into the labyrinth. Little tap there. Ooh.
Top speed down the bottom, 129.8. What she got? losing speed all the way up the hill, 128.4. But she comes across the line in 5th spot.
If I remember correctly, Katty finished top 6 here last year.
Yep.
So she's definitely had some experience here. And she tried to just let it fly on the bottom of the track, and there was where those flops and taps were coming into play.
2 World Cup races here, 10th 2 years ago, 5th last year in the snow race.
Here she is just coming out of corner 0, just pushes her way a bit too much, tries to not tap, but instead puts herself into a little bit of a skid. Lots of height here on the exit as she flops. You can see that the ice coming up as she heads into corner 14.
Yeah, brakewoman Jennifer really feels that as the sled like comes up and batters her in the base of the spine.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of roller coaster ride. She's got lots of cleanup for the second run.
Yeah, there you go. Well, top 5 run at the moment from Katty Bile. What about Brittany Reinbold? She'll be in the booth shortly after the women's race to call today's 4-man race. So looking forward to that as well. So she can add that TV announcer to her CV, which is, she's a flight instructor, flying aeroplanes as well as piloting bobsleds. Also a tour guide at the Olympic Training Centre at Lake Placid. 34 years old, 34-year-old Lauren Gibbs on the brakes. And pretty 19th in the snow here last year. Gibbs has raced just twice here at Winterberg in her 19 World Cup starts now.
Gibbs is definitely a very, very strong athlete. She showed that at the Olympics, and it's amazing to have her with kind of a pilot that fluid.
Yeah. Lauren Gibbs, 12 times on the World Cup podium, including 2 wins. Best women's race for Brittany Reinbold, 4th place in Lake Placid a couple of seasons ago. Now, obviously, a track she knows a little better than the European tracks.
Definitely, but she's up and coming. Her eyes are set for 4 years from now at the Olympics, and this is where she needs to learn these tracks and learn these tools for her toolbox so that in 4 years she'll be a medal contender.
Not a bad looking run, just gets a little knock away. At the moment, she's in 8th place on the splits.
Yeah, a bit of a tiny tap and skid as she headed into corner 9. Not as high as the other athletes as she heads into corner 11. Bit of a tap there. A tap again as she heads into corner 14. It's big uphill curve.
And Reinbold's career history here is 2 World Cup starts. No European Cup, nothing else. So a total of a dozen trips down the track in training and 2 race runs, and now a 3rd race run. It's, yeah, trying to build that knowledge. As you know, Liz, time on ice is the only way of gaining that knowledge.
Definitely, and this track is much different than the 2 American tracks. So trying to compare, you can only do so much. Oh, she just clips her foot just as she hops into the sled, just kind of kicks it on the side of the sled. Takes her a little bit longer to get in as would be expected. Yeah,
so she'll be out of the grooves. Luckily, brakewoman is in, and it's a nice straight run or a decent long run down into corner 0.
Here she is coming off of 8, just a little tap and kind of skid as she heads into corner 9. She's in that BMW sled that's made specifically for the Americans.
And all those corners sort of linked together, so you're late in one, it ends up sending you late into 2 or 3 after that. Next up is our 2nd US sled. This is Lana Myers-Taylor, world champion here in 2015. Her World Cup races are like this: 3rd, 2nd, 1st, 2nd in the last 4 years.
Alana is an incredible athlete. She's amazing. She's been offered multiple full ride scholarships when she was back in university, and they just had the 2nd fastest start with a brand new brakeman. This is her World Cup debut race. Yeah, Lake Quaza, 25-year-old sprinter from Sycamore, Illinois, and currently a kickboxing instructor, so I'll be very nice about her. Same.
Yeah, World Cup debut for her.
A lot of athletes take a year off or retire after the Olympics, so it's a bit of a rebuilding phase to teach these new brakemen how to push a sled, what bobsled is all about, and that's why we see a couple new names on the start list.
Quite a few new names on the American roster, and they're all very excited to be racing in Europe and in the ice. 3rd place at the moment, in amongst the Germans for Lana Myers-Taylor. She's got good experience. She's not been off the podium here in any World Cup start. She was 2nd last year. And the Olympic silver medalist is in the top 3, 56.96. All right, that's within shooting distance.
And you'll definitely see her coming out that 2nd run fighting.
2nd fastest start, 3rd fastest down time. And the speed at the bottom, 129.5. The BMW sled is not lacking for much either. They are within touching distance of the top of the pile. And Alana never produces anything less than the best, does she?
No, and Alana will be racing with the men today in the 4-man race, so she's got a double race day today.
Yeah, she does indeed.
Little bit of a skid in the middle of the curve there, just perhaps steering a little bit too much as you're heading into that big uphill section.
Well, those are the secrets that the Germans polish with countless trips pre and post season. Lots of Belgian flags waving now for Elfie Willemsen. This is a World Cup finale, a return performance at their home track for the Belgians. Elfie Willemsen and Hannah Marion competed in Sochi and finished a strong 6th position. And Hannah Marion, an Olympic sprint champion as well in the Summer Games. And this is the final race for them. Elfie has already started her new career in bobsled. She's become a coach for the IBSF, the Bobsled and Skeleton Federation. But they wanted to just have one more for the fans, for the families, and for the sponsors.
And to go out in style. What a way to say goodbye to the sport that you love so much.
Absolutely.
On your home track with many friends and family watching alongside her.
Best ever World Cup races for Elfia. 2nd place finishes, bizarrely, in Altenburg and Koenigsee, even though this is their home track.
She has told me in the past that Winterberg is not her favorite track. She likes the trickier driving tracks, but
she has a couple of top 6 results. She hasn't driven a sled since the Games. And I spoke to Hannah Marion. I said, when was the last time you pushed your sled? She said, oh, in Sochi 5 years ago. Oh, no. She came here a couple of weeks ago for a training run with Anne van Nieuwenhuis and crashed her.
oh,
Yeah. So she said, I've been shaking in the back of the sled every trip down with Elfie going, no, we're okay. I'd like, you know, it's really nice. This is a very friendly environment.
Yeah.
It's a tiny sport. There's no money. Everybody here is in it for the love, because there is no money. And it's nice that the girls are there to kind of welcome them down at the bottom. So,
and to congratulate Elfie on a wonderful career.
Yeah.
Her best, I think, World Champs result ever was in Winterberg, though.
Yeah.
And she has had an amazing career, and I'm very thankful to know her through the sport.
Competed in 3 Olympic Games. First one was Viesturs in 2010. They started the Belgian program for a reality program to find new athletes to go to the Winter Games. So from 2007 on, she has been part of the family and remains part of the family now with a different hat on, coaching youngsters in bobsled. Our final sled in this first of 2 heats is from Switzerland. Martina Fonteneva, the 32-year-old from Zurich. She started on the brakes as well. And Irina Strabel, 22-year-old from Zurich. She started a couple of seasons ago. Now, they were due to race in Sigulda, did not go, because Fonteneva had a couple of crashes in training, but this is their World Cup debut for the season, and she gets high and wide off corner 0.
Yeah, just a bit later into the curve, which pushed her height so much further and flopped her kind of into that tap and skid. But I think she might have a little bit of nerves coming off of Sigulda. It was not the result or the situation she was in.
Absolutely right. Well, they had a 7th fastest start, so nothing holding them back at the getaway. They've been giving it the full beans off the start in training. So can she put a top 10 run together? She drifted away, losing that momentum early on. Follows you all the way down the track, doesn't it?
Definitely. She's going to be fighting to get that speed back, especially at this bottom of the track.
At the moment, 11th place ahead of Elfie Willemsen. Little rattle there, and very late as she drops off 13. 13 is one of the key corners here for rolling. That and 14, the exit of the finish curve.
The victory roll.
The victory roll, 57.63, so that is a top 10 run for her.
I'm sure she has a little bit of nerves, so she's probably pretty pleased to get that run over with and then be able to just keep learning and keep pushing.
Little whoops from the back seat there from her brakewoman, Irina Strabel. And they are down in 10th place ahead of Brittany Rybold of the USA by 600ths. And again, slightly long load. There's a tiny little sort of plastic seat back, which is about 3 or 4 inches high, that the driver braces herself against. Looks like she got her spikes caught up on it.
Yeah, and you can see that just a little bit of a flop on the exit of corner 0. It's tricky because the corner doesn't really turn, but it'll push you away, and that's what we're seeing there, and a little bit of tap. Again, as she heads into corner 14, a little bit of extra height, just letting the sled run as much as it can.
Well, there you go, there's Irina, and taking off the helmet, Martina. They complete our first of 2 runs in the women's bobsleigh here in Winterberg in Germany, round 2 of the BMW IBSF World Cup. Second run to go, both will count, and it is our Olympic champion and World Cup points leader, Mariami Manka, who is our race leader. She leads by 800s from teammate Stephanie Schneider, with Alana Myers-Taylor of the USA in a strong 3rd position as well. So Alana trying to break up the domination by the Germans on this track. Well, Yamanka, after winning the Olympic gold medal and winning last week, she's won her last 2 races. I think she's won her last 4 or 5 races, because she had a good winning streak going last season. Oh, no, she hasn't. She's in winning World Cup. Won the last 2, including the big one of the quad. So she leads here as well. Just out the top half dozen, Misha McNeil, Ava Nieuwenhuis, and Lubov Cianik, with Martina Fonteneva rounding out the top 10. So 1 run done, 1 to go, and the sleds will be back on ice at 12:45 local time here in Winterberg, 11:45 GMT, wherever you are. Come and join us. Elizabeth Meyer and me, Martin Haven, with the IBS TV crew trackside here in Winterberg.